Good evening. Give everybody a few minutes to hop on here. Hello, Indiana. Hopefully you all made it through the storms okay last night. Crops looking good out there, maybe. I know seeing a lot of Twitter pictures of corn blown over. Talked with, or chatted, I guess, with a buddy of mine. We're alive, corn looks good. That's great to hear. Great to hear. I did see you guys must have ducked and dove for cover a little bit last night, so glad everybody made it through safe. A little town just north of me, about 20, 30 miles, got hit last night. Sounds like everything's going okay, but a few gas stations taken out, Walmart parking lot damaged, and some things like that, but sounds like no lives were lost, at least in that little town of Pontiac, Illinois, so that's great. You know, it's one of those things you've got to be aware. Talk about risk. You've got to know your surroundings and know what you can and what your tolerance is, right? When are you going to listen to the weather alarm go off and take cover, or are you going to go out on the front porch and see if you can capture a tornado with your iPhone? But so last night we talked a little bit about risk, and Old Blue Silo wanted me to talk a little bit about this, and I'll tell you what, I appreciate everybody hopping on tonight and every night that you join. You know, it's fun to challenge the norm of what we think about. It's fun to hopefully give some thought ideas to young farmers and ranchers. But tonight I want to focus a little bit on managing risk as a young farmer. That we talked last night about kind of more of the business side tonight. And certainly these are more than 10-minute Periscope discussions. But what are some of the key highlights on managing risk in a grain market? And how fitting of a topic when we lost about 50 cents in the last week. So, you know, we exited last week on a high note. You know, you name the marketing analogy that you want to use of you've got to go low so you can go higher, you know, and where were we at? And so, you know, much like with anything, it's all about surrounding yourself with good information. And part of that is setting up. Last night I talked about knowing your balance sheet from the financial standpoint, but I think the extension of that is you think about managing risk in your business of grain marketing, and arguably this could be with you look at the livestock inventories as well, whether it's hay or silage. But as we think about grain marketing specifically, an opportunity for us to know and understand, where do I stand on my average production? So, you know, and I think I may have touched on this at some point too before, but if I know what my average production is, what's my insured production, and did I insure it 65, 75, or 85%? And for you young farmers, if you qualify for that young farmer discount, you're basically getting 85% coverage for the 75% price. So, you know, it's important. You might as well take advantage of that while you can, but know that you have the opportunity to get about a 10-point discount as a young farmer just getting involved in production agriculture. So utilize that. But as you think about managing your risk, you know, and I spent a couple of years at a grain elevator out in Indiana, oddly enough, when I first graduated from college. And that gave me a great opportunity to understand, how does commodity marketing work from the elevator standpoint. And one thing to note is that bushel of grain gets sold at least probably 4 times. By the time you sell it to the elevator, you may buy it back on paper. They're going to sell it, and they're not only going to sell it on the board, they're going to sell it to a processor. And that processor has to sell it on the board, because everybody has to maintain even positions as you think about that. Otherwise, you start Texas hedging. Now, Texas hedging is somewhat legal, I guess you could say, for a farmer. It just increases his risk, whereas a commodity, an elevator or commercial elevator cannot do that. So they can't take that risk. They have to maintain an even position. But anyway, get a little bit away from talking about our business specifically, that you need to fully understand what's your average production history for your farm, and run a spreadsheet that you can change those numbers frequently. And if you don't have one, ask a friend, ask a neighbor what they use, how they look at things. You can follow some people on Twitter that provide some of those spreadsheets as well that you can download. I think University of Illinois, Farm Doc Daily, they have some resources that can help you with marketing. The internet is full of things. The Internet of Things, as some people call it these days. There's plenty of information out there, but what you need to do is you need to understand what is my average production history today that I report on my insurance form. What am I insured to? And then conversely, what happens if I have a good year versus a bad year? What if I have a year that we've kind of got this year going on? And what if I'm not going to grow 200 bushel corn? Maybe I'm only going to grow 180. Or look at the trends that we're setting up weather-wise and make some comparisons, because whether it was your farm or someone else's farm, you should understand that history of that farm, especially if it's family ground, and understand what was 2012 like, or what was 2010. Know where that production was that year. That way you kind of get a baseline of what could you be setting yourself up for this year. Having that spreadsheet will help you understand where does your cost need to be. Know your break even. Know your break even, and if I forgot to say it, know your break even, because that is important for you to understand and start a marketing plan. And once you start that marketing plan, should you fray from it? Well, not really. But what you're going to want to do is understand that break-even plan, and then you know what your risk is, right? You know where that break-even point of where that commodity market needs to be. And that break-even should include those costs that we talked about last night. If I've got land or if I've got family living expenses, that all goes into that break-even cost. Now, all of a sudden, you know, when can I start selling corn for a profit or a break even? And that profit might be 5 cents a bushel, it might be 10. What is it that you're willing to accept in your operation, knowing your financials that we talked about last night on your balance sheet? What's it going to take to cover it? Now, that risk tolerance might be greater or not from a neighbor or a friend that you know, but know and understand where you need to start selling your grain. Because at that point, the risk is gone, right? And I know when we talked about $4 corn here a while back, it's only $4 corn if you sell it. Now, if you sold a little bit earlier and you want to get back in the market, go ahead. There are ways you can do that. You can get in with the futures, or you can play options as well. And, of course, you need to talk with an advisor and a broker, and they can help you through those, because they are not easy to do. Now, of course, options is going to limit your risk, because you know what that risk is up front. You know that it's going to cost you 15 cents to get in at whatever level. If that's what you want to pay and that's what you figured in your cost, then that's where your risk is limited at that point. That's what you're going to spend, and that's all. Whereas if you are in the futures, then all of a sudden that changes, and now you've got margin calls. And depending on where you're in and your position in that market, you have to maintain margin, of which gets pretty pricey in a hurry. So, as you think about that, that is a big risk to take, especially if you're not confident in the market. And if you follow any of I mentioned Market Rally last night with Farm Journal. I'm going to have to tell those guys that we're going to have to send some people their way and vice versa. But if you listen to those guys and some of the market news, the margin requirement changed yesterday, which was a reason that some of the funds, the investors got out because they were tired of paying the margin money. So they cut their losses and got out. That's the thing about the grain industry, is that is not a really safe place to play. So unless you're going to be involved in it every day, watch it every day, you need to hire somebody that will watch it every day if you're not going to do it. And that's probably that take advice that for what you paid for it. But grain marketing is tough. You need to have a plan, understand what your risk is, how much are you willing to profit or loss on each bushel of corn that you can swallow and risk. If you're going to play the futures, understand there's a lot of risk associated with that, because especially you see we lost 50 cents here in a matter of 5 days. It happens fast. It can go up really fast and it can go down really fast, but understand what risk are you willing to take in your operation. And everybody's going to have a different risk tolerance. You can make a lot of money, you can lose a lot of money. And even with options, know that your risk is now limited differently. And, some of that you're going to protect that risk with crop insurance. Again, you can choose your risk tolerance by whether it's 65, 75, or 85% coverage. You have the ability to do that with crop insurance. The same with options, though. Use those in a way that you can manage that risk accordingly. So there are plenty of tools out there. I encourage you to get on the internet, follow Twitter, follow some people on Twitter. I don't know about Facebook. I don't know. I'm kind of over Facebook these days. Just not feeling it anymore. There's enough depressing things going on in this world. We don't need to surround ourselves with a bunch of other people ranting and raving on everybody else on Facebook. So anyway, little injection of opinion there, but as if the rest of this Periscope isn't opinion. But find that information on Twitter. Go to your local universities, whether it's the University of Illinois, Iowa State University. They've got a good economics program too that develops some of those tools that you can utilize. But first, you have to understand what is your break even. If you don't understand your break even and your cash flow and what you need to make it, you can't do the rest of any of this stuff. So make sure you know that break even. Surround yourself with good people. Utilize information on the internet sparingly. Make sure you know who you're following and where you're getting that information. And maybe it's downloading 3 or 4 of those spreadsheets, picking what you like out of each one of those, and then taking that and making it your own. But few things tonight as we talk about managing risk in your operation as a young farmer or rancher, or maybe even an old farmer and rancher. But it's all about having a baseline fundamental knowledge of what you need for your business to keep going and be successful. No different than anybody else in the business world, knowing where their profit and loss or P&L statement is. Know where you're going to profit and know where you're going to possibly have a loss, and know how big of a loss are you willing to sustain. Because as we talked about last night, if your balance sheet's in order, hey, I can only afford to lose 3 cents this year, or maybe I can't afford to lose any, and that's gonna help you navigate that risk profile as you think about marketing your grain. So with that, I'm gonna hop back on the road tonight, headed home, and we'll be back tomorrow. I think it's Friday, so we'll do Farming Friday. And again, if you find this valuable, feel free to share it with your friends on Twitter and ask questions, submit some topic ideas. We had about 2 inches of rain last night at the farm. Not much wind. We did have some tornado warnings go through, but we missed a lot of that. So did get some scouting pictures. I guess late yesterday or today. Crops are looking okay. I tell you what, we're pretty fortunate here. We had a little under 2 inches last week and another 2 inches this week. It's been coming a little fast, but I can't really complain. So all things considered, the crops are looking pretty decent. So hope everybody stayed safe last night that's on, and if you know friends or neighbors, they made it out safe as well. So with that, thanks for watching Supper with Sean. I'll talk to you tomorrow night. And you too, Elmore Farms. Have a good evening. Thanks for watching.